Do you mind driving faster, please?
Would you like me to take the Chiswick roundabout through Hounslow and Staines?
What is this, fucking Middle Earth? Just take us to the airport, okay?
Picture this. It's the year 2010 and you're the spry age of 13. Silly bands and jeggings are all the rage and people around you won't stop planking. It's the golden age of the mid-budget studio comedy and you see a trailer for a new one that has you intrigued. It's called Get Him to the Greek. It stars Jonah Hill, who you know is pretty funny, a British guy named Russell Brand that looks transplanted straight from the hottest rock band of 1978, and P. Diddy, who you know as more of a general figure of rap music as opposed to someone you associate with a particular song or album, but whatever, he seems cool enough. And to top it all off, the film is produced by Judd Apatow, who you have it on good authority knows how to make funny movies. Okay, that good authority is the word of your older brother and his friends, as well as your own first-hand experience catching some of his films while your parents are at work. Anyway, you check out the film and you're instantly hooked. The unique blend of Apatow brand humor combined with a killer soundtrack comprised of songs created specifically for the film leaves an indelible impact on your impressionable rock music and comedy loving self. You regularly quote the film with your friends, you buy the soundtrack with all its made-for-movie songs and listen to it like you would any other album, and of course you purchase the 2-disc unrated Blu-ray after having snuck off to FYE while at the mall with your family. Then time marches on. Silly bands fall out of fashion, girls stop wearing jeggings, and eventually, people do stop planking. You go to high school, you graduate high school. You go to college, a pandemic happens, but eventually you graduate college. You get a job and you join the real world. But Get Him to the Greek continues to hold a special place in your heart. Every once in a while, you rewatch the movie and rock out to some infant sorrow like it's 2010 all over again. Even after all these years, you continue to appreciate the film's unique status as a quintessential Apatow production that also serves as a proper rock music movie. And then you hear something deeply concerning. The UK's Channel 4 publishes an investigation accusing Russell Brand of several instances of sexual assault. All of a sudden, the swashbuckling, sex-crazed Aldous Snow that he so convincingly played on screen seems like it might just be a less menacing version of his true self. And not long after that, P. Diddy is accused of sex trafficking and coercing vulnerable people to perform lewd acts on him and his friends. And prior to both of these allegations, Jonah Hill is accused by his ex of being a controlling romantic partner. This accusation is not nearly as troubling as the previous two, but regardless, it's starting to look like the cast of this beloved movie from your formative years might be even more twisted than the larger-than-life characters that they portrayed on screen. In case it's not glaringly obvious by now, what I've just described is the exact experience I had with this movie. I watched the film as an impressionable kid and fell in love with it. I thought it was hilarious, oddly heartwarming, and filled with some of the best made-for-movie music that I had ever heard. Russell Brand made me a fan of his with his powerhouse performance as Aldous Snow. I bought a couple of his books and occasionally listened to his podcast. Mind you, this is back when he was concerned with, housing the homeless and treating everyone with respect, not grifting to society's most gullible folks. And then, a couple years ago, I heard about some pretty awful things that Brand is alleged to have done, and shortly thereafter, I heard similar things about Diddy. Granted, his role in the film is not as instrumental as Brand's, and the movie didn't turn me into some Diddy head like it kinda did for me with Russell Brand. But it's still not the kind of thing you want to hear about a key actor in a movie that holds a special place in your heart. Same goes for Jonah Hill, but again, I want to be clear that I am not equating what he did with the actions of Brand and Diddy. So where does all this unsavory knowledge leave the film with me now? Honestly, I'm not really sure, but it's what I'm hoping to find out. So let's dive in. Before we get too deep in the weeds here, let's do a quick summary of the film. Spoiler alert, obviously. Get Him to the Greek is a spiritual sequel to Forgetting Sarah Marshall, another film in the Apatow cinematic universe, which came out a couple years prior in 2008. In Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Russell Brand plays Aldous Snow, a charismatic rock star who has stolen the girlfriend of the main character, played by Jason Segel. In Get Him to the Greek, Brand continues this role, although they apparently planned for him to play a different rock star at first, which just makes no sense. Jonah Hill plays Aaron Green, a young A&R executive whose boss, Sergio, played by P. Diddy, implores him and his co-workers to come up with the music industry's next big idea. Aaron, a lifelong fan of Aldous Snow's band Infant Sorrow, proposes that they put on a 10th anniversary concert for the band's legendary show at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles. Eventually, Sergio greenlights the idea and assigns Aaron with meeting Aldous in London and getting him to the Greek. After a healthy dose of absinthe, furry walls, and pretzels, but not the kind you put mustard on, the film culminates at the Greek Theater as Infant Sorrow puts on a show for the ages, resulting in a second win for Aldous' career, with Aaron now serving as his producer. And everyone lives happily ever after. This isn't the kind of film that I expect everyone to fall in love with. Don't get me wrong, it's genuinely funny and it tells a good story. Not to mention, Elizabeth Moss and Rose Byrne fill out the main cast quite well, while Jake Johnson, Nick Kroll, TJ Miller, Aziz Ansari, and Kristen Schaal all have some pretty great bit parts. But it's not unique in that right. If you saw it before, chances are that you enjoyed it, but eventually forgot about it. I feel like you need to share the film's deep affinity for rock music in order to fully appreciate it. And that was me. I am the target audience for this movie. That's not to say I don't have a few nitpicks about the film. For one, Aldous is in a band called Infant Sorrow, but the film treats him like a solo artist. He is undoubtedly the star of the show. He never interacts with the band when he isn't on stage. We don't even know any of the other band members' names. We know nothing about them or their relationship with Aldous, other than the cheap laugh you get from hearing the band name for the first time, Infant Sorrow. Get it? There is no point to him not being a solo artist. And while I'm on my soapbox, the third act feels very rushed to me. The first hour of the film, while very frenetic, is well-paced and somewhat contained. But by the time they leave Las Vegas, things feel all over the map. Aldous hooks up with Jackie. Aldous finds out Naples isn't his son. Aldous instigates a three-way with Daphne and Aaron. Aldous goes to a hotel to jump off the fucking roof and break his arm in a swimming pool. It's all just a lot. Not only does it feel like one or two scenes could have been cut here, but we've seen Aldous with Aaron, his perfect comedic foil, throughout the entire film. So when we go so long without the rapport which has carried the movie, I don't know, it feels a little hollow. But all is well by the end when Aldous hits the stage and Infant Sorrow plays a triumphant show. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it's a pretty good movie. It was a modest commercial success, but it didn't have the broad appeal of Superbad or Bridesmaids. Unless you are one of the few Get Him to the Greek stands out there, I assume there's more than one of us, there is no reason to even remember this movie existed. How many films have served their purpose of returning an acceptable profit to their investors and then gotten relegated to the dustbins of history? Get Him to the Greek should have been one of those films, and that's what made it so off-putting when the recent news about its stars brought the film back to the surface. Multiple posts about the film in the Aged Like Milk subreddit got thousands of upvotes each. Tweets went viral talking about how poorly the movie is aged. Shit, even Crack talked about it. It was strange seeing this movie I had quietly adored for so long blow up for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't getting talked about for how funny it was, how catchy the songs were, or how well it nailed the archetype of the charismatic yet emotionally broken rock star. It was getting talked about because the guys who helped tell that story were getting exposed for all the things they didn't want the world to see. At the end of the day, artists are only willing to share the sides of themselves that they want you to notice. And then, if stories come out about them that they can't contain, they go into damage control mode. And the rest of us who've enjoyed their work are left to draw our own conclusions. Should I feel bad for still resonating with a film if I know that some of its key roles were played by bad actors? Not bad actors like they can't act, but bad actors like bad people. You get it. Is it wrong that I went back and watched Get Him to the Greek recently and enjoyed it when I was able to view it in a vacuum? What does that say that I had to view it in a vacuum in the first place? I prefer to consume my art guilt-free, so should I just discard a piece of art after I learn something concerning about one of its contributors? And what about all the films, all the TV shows, all the music that was created by people that have done terrible things that we don't even know about? You could get a gold medal in these mental gymnastics and still not have a clear answer. I totally understand if you found out something awful about an artist you once enjoyed and decided, you know what, I cannot separate the art from the artist. I'm just not able to enjoy this person's art anymore. But I also understand not giving up on a piece of art that you forged your own memories and connections with just because you found out that a person involved with the creation of that art has turned out to be a piece of shit. Me, personally, I will probably watch Get Him to the Greek again somewhere down the road, and I will probably enjoy it when I'm able to tune out the misdeeds of Brand and Diddy and just focus on the performances. But I also understand that that in itself is a privilege. I'm not close enough to the situation. Look, I'm far from the only person to reflect on a piece of art after learning something unsavory about one of its creators. And people have had to reflect on much bigger works than the one I'm focusing on here. Can you listen to Thriller totally unencumbered? What about College Dropout? Do you have any issues watching Annie Hall? There are these culture-wide questions that we have to ask each other about what's still acceptable and what's not. And then on the other side of the spectrum are these ultra-specific examples where nobody else cares, so we just have to ponder it ourselves. And that's obviously what I'm focusing on here. I understand that to most of you watching, this film didn't have nearly the impact that it did on me. Best case, you have a vaguely fond memory of watching it like 10 years ago. In worst case, it made no impact at all. But you've got your own Get Him to the Greek, I'm sure. Some B-movie from the 90s that you loved but the director turned out to be a total creep. Some obscure album that you grew up on only to find out that the singer was meeting underage girls on tour. It's probably not Get Him to the Greek for you, but I feel like we've all had to quietly deliberate some uncelebrated piece of art that holds a special place in our heart. I remember when I saw the movie for the first time, I half thought Infant Sorrow was a real band. And when I confirmed that they weren't, I wished that they were. I yearn for a world where Get Him to the Greek is a true story, and Russell Brand is this crazy rock star that only shags women consensually. Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in. But I guess that's the beauty of art. It creates worlds for us that don't actually exist. So what do you do when an artist who helped create those worlds turns out to be deeply flawed, sometimes even criminal, in the real world? Do you separate the art from the artist, or do you shun it all completely? I don't know. I think that's up for the individual to decide. I remember hearing Paul McCartney say that he realized one day that Beatles songs don't belong to him or John or George or Ringo anymore. They belong to the world. And I kind of like that perspective. When you release a piece of art to the world, you as an artist are not in control of how people perceive or consume your art. So in a way, it's not yours anymore. If you're lucky, folks have their own experiences and memories that they associate your art with. In other words, they own their perception of it. So while I totally understand not wanting to support an artist by giving them attention after they've proven that they don't deserve it, just remember that you still have some of the power. You own your perception of their art, even if that means not perceiving it at all. All right, that's all I got for today. You've been watching In Gabe We Trust. Thanks for stopping by.